And that's why we have to ask why so many people felt that the society had abandoned them, that they had so little to lose, that they would occupy Parliament and central Wellington for 3 weeks in a protest that everybody agrees is different from anything that we've seen before. Well, the government's answer to that question came out last night in what I regarded as a disappointing speech from the Prime Minister. So far as she's concerned, everything is fine, the COVID response is fine. It's all because of conspiracy theories driven by foreign websites. Well, you know what? That sounds like a conspiracy theory in itself. And just to be clear, the world does have a big problem with misinformation, with processing information. There's never been more access to information, and our ability to work through it and sort fact from fiction has not kept up. I get it nearly every day. I get somebody who emails me asking, I don't think this vaccine's effective. I send them a link from the New England Journal of Medicine, the premier medical journal in the world, the journal of record for the profession that's doubled life expectancy and made so many things possible. And they shoot back, no, I've got this blog, I'd rather read this. And people are lacking the ability to tell the difference, and that person is misinformed, and that is a real problem, and I know it and I experience it. But that doesn't mean that everybody who has a concern is misinformed. And the problem with being unable to internalise complex situations in our head, to quote an old ad, is that we are failing to do that as politicians too. One of the things we most need at this time, and I mean the past 36 hours, this year and the 2020 so far, is the ability to internalise complex situations in our heads. The Prime Minister wants us to believe what Michael Wood said, that there's a, quote, river of filth running through the protest. Now, I know Michael Wood. He's enough of a political tragic to understand the allusion to Enoch Powell's sinister speech when he said that. And then the Prime Minister, or at least her party, Mr Speaker, seemed to support you calling people ferals. And coming to you, Mr Speaker, what were you thinking? I hope one day you'll explain what you thought you achieved by turning sprinklers and bad music on the protesters. Even if you wail that you didn't make it worse, where were you as the leader and custodian of this fine institution seeking a mature de-escalation? That's what we should have seen. But back to that complex situation. It's not good enough to dismiss all of the events of the last 3 weeks as driven by conspiracy theorists and extremists, as the Prime Minister has. We need to be able to accept that there were unacceptable behaviours in the protest, but also behaviours by people who simply felt they'd been driven to distraction and ostracised from society. And let me give you just one example. A man I know came to me the other day, and I want to be clear, he wasn't at the protest, but many like him were. A man who was a beloved chaplain at Dilworth School in Auckland. Now, that school, as some people will know, have been dealing with some historical problems. They're not the fault of anyone at the school right now. They're extremely sensitive. This man is not an anti-vaxxer. He had 2 doses, but he doesn't want to get boosted because of the severe reaction he had to his second dose. His doctor recognises that that is one of the few accepted responses to the Pfizer Comirnaty vaccine. She's not allowed to give him an exemption. The school's not allowed to make an exemption. He's not allowed to keep on teaching. That school has lost him at the time they most need him because of an inhuman and inflexible response to vaccination policy. And what would have been more human is if we said it's vax or test. What would have been more human is if we said an organisation can make its own rules. What would have been more human would have been to say that a doctor, as a respected professional, can keep their autonomy and make an exemption. For him and many like him, that more human response would have been more in keeping with a government that was elected to talk about well-being. And had we done that, we might not have created the seeds of this unexpected and despicable meltdown that we have seen. Finally, for the record, and I want to just make clear again, that man was not in the protest, but many like him who weren't nonetheless share their concerns. And what we need from this point is to be able to have genuine and candid debate about the future of our country and the response to COVID-19 in particular, without saying and oversimplifying that everyone that has a concern is somehow a neo-Nazi. You know, the people that are doing that are as much of a problem as some of the antisocial fringes of this protest. We need hope and healing, and that's going to require from our government some humility. Because we've had a government that's been here for 4.5 years, all sorts of tragedies, many decisions made under intense time pressure. The only thing they've apologised so far is the Dawn raids back in the 1970s. We need to accept that some of the policies that we've adopted haven't worked and be prepared to say we're going to put them right. Only at that point do we come back together. No good calling people names, no good trying to toxify people, no good trying to blame people. What we need is dialogue and discussion about how we go forward, uniting New Zealanders behind good ideas rather than trying to demonise each other. That's what we need to do. Yes, we need to thank the police, and we should. Yes, we need to hold the criminals who behaved so awfully yesterday accountable. Yes, we need a response to COVID-19. But you know what we need more than anything is hope, healing and humility, the ability to have dialogue, not to stereotype each other or behave immaturely and call each other names. If we can unite behind good ideas, then we can truly heal from this disgraceful day in our history. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Rauri Waititi, who is remote.